Okay, so now let's move on to the species present here in the Philippines, specifically under the order Cetacea. So, under the order Cetacea, we have two suborders. First one is the Mysticeti, or baleen whales, and the second one is the Odonticeti, or toothed whales, or also called as dolphins. So, for baleen whales, we have one family Balaenopteridae, or also called as rorquals, and we have five of them, five species. And for the toothed whales or dolphins, we have the family Delphinidae, or dolphins, and we have 16 species. And for family Physeteridae, or sperm whales, we have one species. For family Cogidae, or the pygmy or dwarf sperm whales, we have two of them. And for family Ziphidae, or beaked whales, we have three species. So that is a total of 27. So basically, we have 27 species of cetaceans here in the Philippines. And for the other group of marine mammal present here in the Philippines is we have the order Sirenia. So order Cetacea and order Sirenia. Now, order Sirenia is not in the slide, but we only have one species of order Sirenia here, and that is a dugong dugon or dugong. So now let's take a closer look to the species under the order Cetacea. So for the family of rorquals, mentioned earlier we have five, right? But in this picture we only have three. So these pictures are actual sightings of these species here in the Philippines. So for the first one, the B. musculus. Second, we have B. edeni. And finally, we have the B. omorai. So if we look at here in the map, B. musculus is denoted by the color red. So it was sighted here near Bohol, so here in Bohol Sea. And for B. edeni, it was sighted Negros, Iloilo, Bohol, in Calamian group of islands, and here near Palawan. And for B. omorai, it was sighted here near northern Mindanao. Now for the next one, the family of sperm whales, and we only have one species, and that is Physeter macrocephalus. And the species has been sighted all around the Philippines, all around. So we have one here in the Babuyan Islands, in Palawan, West Philippine Sea, Mindoro, a lot here in Silaga Sea, and a lot also in Bohol Sea. So in between northern Mindanao and the southern part of that. Now, for the next one, we have the pygmy or dwarf sperm whales. We have two species, the Cogiasima and the Cogia breviceps. So Cogiasima was sighted here in Davao Gulf, and Cogia breviceps, it was sighted in Babuyan Islands, Mindoro, Palawan, Negros, Iloilo, and here in Bohol Sea. So same thing as the previous one. Yep. It is concentrated in the southern part of Visayas and the northern part. Finally, we have the beaked whales. We have Ziphius cavirostris, Bisoplodon densirostris, and Indopacetus pacificus. So Ziphius cavirostris in the color pink. It was sighted here in Bohol, as well as here near Misamis Occidental, and here in Palawan. Mesoplodon densirostris was sighted here in Sulusi, near Palawan, as well as Negros and Iloilo, and here in the base of northern Mindanao. And finally, we have Indopacetus pacificus. It was sighted in West Philippine Sea, here near Sulusi, and here in Davao. Now for the dolphins, we have 16 species of dolphins, but in this slide we only have 8 of them. But I think the most famous ones or most important to note are spinner dolphin, razor's dolphin, bottlenose dolphin, and Irrawaddy dolphin. Irrawaddy dolphin is a species of concern here in the Philippines. In fact, it is critically endangered. Now, what are the threats to marine mammals and cetaceans? Now, we have classified them into three, but there are more. So we have pollution, irresponsible fishing practices, and climate change. So let's first move on. Let's first discuss pollution. So pollution is classified into three kinds. We have the solid waste or marine debris. We have chemical and the noise. So for solid waste or marine debris, the solid waste such as fishing nets, the plastics, the number one, entangle them. So reason sila swim, and eventually when they can't swim, they can find food. When they can't find food, they will starve. When they starve, they'll die. And the second one is the ingestion of plastics. And now the alarming thing is that microplastics can actually be passed down from prey to predator. Although we tilipat na kabaloon sa effects, ana, the sound of it is already alarming. In fact, there was a study recently published that they found microplastics in the blood of humans. So now I will read to you a case of plastic ingestion here in the Philippines. So in 2011, a big whale beached alive in Davao Gulf. There was a beach. There was a big whale beached alive in Davao Gulf, and an hour later it died. And when they opened the whale, like they examined, they found out that it ingested 0.25, like 1/4 kilo of plastic. And that includes marker cups, like random hair clips, sachet wrappers, and a plastic ball. And these plastics block the the whale's intestines. So it sounds so bad. Anyway, moving on, we have the chemical pollution. So chemical pollution interferes with the hormone system of cetaceans, increasing their susceptibility to diseases and decreasing reproduction rates. Now, why is this so bad? What happens if there is an increase of susceptibility to diseases? It is likely that there will also be an increase of mortality. And if that is coupled with a decreasing reproduction rates, lisod na mag-fill sa gap sa population. That will likely lead to a decrease in their population, which is not something we want, di ba? And last one, we have the noise pollution. So we know that cetaceans, they use echolocation, right? They use sound for navigating, hunting, and communicating. Now, what happens if ma-disrupt that sound with loud noises? Loud noises, from offshore drilling, construction of bridges, coastal roads, construction of ports. That will affect them. Loud noises is a nuisance to them, like annoying ka na siya sila. So it can actually affect their behavior and physiology. I mean, just like us humans, I mean, it's probably not in the same degree, but somehow analogous. I mean, if we are encountered with loud noises, we can't really function well. I mean, we can't really focus well. It's probably kind of the same with them, but probably to a different extent, different degree. Okay, so moving on to pollution, moving on, we have irresponsible fishing. So there are two types, direct catch and indirect catch or bycatch. So direct catch, I think this one is more prominent back in the day, like in the 20th century. If you recall the book Moby Dick, the whale they were talking about there is actually a sperm whale. And back in the day, whaling was like so famous because they used the whale's oil for lamps and other commodities. So grabe ang decline sa population nila at that time. Thankfully now it's not as prominent, but it is still happening in some parts of the world. Now the weird thing actually, okay, some they use dolphin, like they intentionally catch dolphin so that they can use it as bait for sharks, so that they can use the shark, their fins, for food. So it's double damage. Very bad. So for the second one, we have the indirect catch or bycatch. So this one, it is unintentional. Like, wala nila gintem na i-catch tong dolphin. Pero catch lang dyan. An example, let's say na ilang target na species kay sardinas or tuna. But then, accidentally na-catch a dolphin. Well, it's okay if, like, buhi pa ang dolphin pag-catch ninyo. But if patay na, well, that's already damaged. So next one, we have climate change. So how does climate change affect cetaceans and marine mammals? So it is primarily through habitat degradation. So we know with climate change, whether there's an increase in temperature. So number one, degradation of seagrass beds. Diba seagrass beds, they are sensitive to temperature. And if mag-continue pa o decline ang coverage sa seagrass beds, that will affect the feeding patterns of dugongs. Dugongs are heavily reliant on seagrasses for their food. So, perhaps if wala ang seagrasses, unfortunately, magkawala na ang mga dugongs. For the second one, melting of ice caps. So melting of ice caps force cetaceans to change their feeding and migration patterns as they seek food. So climate change, ka-affected yan sila sa ilang pagkaon. What happens mula sila pagkaon, that will eventually lead to starvation, eventually lead to mortality, worst case scenario, extinction. Now speaking of extinction, let's talk about the conservation status. So identifying their conservation status allows the prioritization of species and populations that require urgent conservation measures. So dakan siya actually, dakan conservation status. We have extinction, endangered, vulnerable, least concern, data deficient, dakan pa wala na ko na mention, but these four muna siyang prominent globally and here in the Philippines. So first, let's discuss the Irrawaddy dolphin under the order Cetacea. I will not try to pronounce the scientific name. I'm sure mali jud ko. But anyway, globally, Irrawaddy dolphins are vulnerable, and here in the Philippines, it is considered critically endangered and endangered for some regions. So, Irrawaddy dolphin, they're kind of a unique species of dolphin because, unlike, the dolphins we see in pictures, like in entertainment parks, Irrawaddy dolphins have a round head without beak, and their dorsal fin is rounded and small, and they inhabit the coastal estuary and freshwater habitats. So, one yung Irrawaddy dolphin. And it's actually, they have been sighted in Iloilo and Malampaya Sound. For the second one, we have the gray spinner dolphin, or Stenelia longirostris. Globally, it is data deficient, and here in the Philippines, it is vulnerable. So it's actually the most encountered species in the Philippines, and it has a slender body with long, thin beak that is black at the tip. And it is very active and acrobatic. I believe this one is most prominent in Bohol Sea. So if mag-ride ka ng barge going to Bohol, I remember when I was very young, we found spinner dolphins greeting us when namin sa barge, and they were so active. Like they seemed to look so happy, kaya like mag-jump sila, ganun. Lingaw lang kayo. And also in Camiguin, when you ride the barge to Camiguin, if maswertehan, there are some spinner dolphins there. Next one, we have still under order Cetacea, sperm whale, the Physeter macrocephalus. So globally and here in the Philippines, it is considered vulnerable, and for its characteristics, I think this one is the most identifiable one because of its large, blunt, and squarish head. Its blowhole is located to the left and oriented forward of the head. And it has short, white, and paddle-shaped pectoral fins. Dorsal fin is almost like a hump, and its fluke is triangular in shape and broad, and its lower jaw is very narrow and shorter, and its teeth are found only on the lower jaw. May siyang sperm. Finally, the one and only species under order Sirenia, we have dugong or dugong. So globally, it is vulnerable, and here in the Philippines, it is critically endangered. So how is dugong different with, cetaceans? So number one, it doesn't have a dorsal fin. And number two, it is roundy shaped and less streamlined than cetaceans. So dili ka siya aerodynamically different. So we have another one. Their mammary glands are located in the armpits, and their nostrils are slightly above the snout. the important thing to remember about dugongs is that they hang out, chill, in seagrass beds. And I saw a documentary about dugongs, and I forgot if it was in Palawan or Sulu. Basta kay mga people yun na in charge dito sa locality nila ang in charge sa mga dugongs, mga tribes, indigenous peoples. So, documentary team they were trying to get a picture of the dugong, and before they were able to do that, they had to wait, patiently wait. They had to follow some processes ba before makago into the water and see the dugong. Now, anyway, so we have here the legal framework for conservation. Now, when we're talking about conservation, it is important to take note of the jurisdiction. Kinsa by responsible ani nila. So for cetaceans, they are under Department of Agriculture, and for dugongs, they're under Department of Environment and Natural Resources. So for the laws protecting cetaceans, so FAO 208 of 1998 explicitly defines the mandate to conserve cetaceans. However, Irrawaddy dolphins were not included in this. But in the Philippine Wildlife Act and Presidential Proclamation 342, they declared Malampaya Sound as a protected landscape and seascape. Irrawaddy dolphins, they are usually cited here in Malampaya Sound. So in a sense, they are included in this law now. So for the second one, we have the laws protecting dugongs, and we have the DNR Administrative Order 55. So in 1991, dugongs were the first marine mammal to be legally protected. And another administrative, Order 15 of 2004, dugongs were declared critically endangered. And for the Philippine Wildlife Act of 2001, so this act generally governs. So now we actually have an interagency task force for marine mammal conservation, or IATF-MMC. And this was created because of ENR Special Order number 1636. So, mo ni sila, kaning upat, mo ni ang ilang forming pillars, or like forming components, silang conservation plan. So, first we have survey and research. So, this includes assessment, monitoring, other studies, and identification, stuff like that. And second one, habitat and resource management. That includes monitoring sa mga bycatch, mga fisheries regulation. For habitat, we mentioned earlier that habitat degradation is one of the threats to marine mammals and cetaceans. So when you want to conserve marine mammals, you have to consider the habitat as well. And for the third one, we have policy. And number 4, we have public information, education, and capacity building. Now, this is important para ma-educate ang community, local community mismo. Para makabalo sila kung silang buhaton in case, example, na stranded na whale. Instead na mag-picture-picture sila dito or like ilang tamak-tamakan, makabalo sila unsa ang sakto na response. So, there's that. And actually, here in the Philippines, we have a strandings response/rescue team. And maata sa Cagayan, Palawan, Negros, Occidental, Oriental, Bohol, and Misamis Oriental. However, probably due to the lack of manpower and funding siguro, some of these stations, some of these teams are inactive. But hopefully in the future, they will be mobilized once again, bring back these glory days. So anyway, that's it for this presentation. Thank you so much for listening.